The day the stars rearranged themselves without asking permission, no one on Earth panicked, except the aliens watching us. I remember standing on the observation deck of the Wayfarer, coffee still warm in my hand, when the void ahead folded like paper and rewrote every map humanity had ever drawn. Space didn't explode. It clicked, and suddenly we were somewhere we had never meant to be. That should have been terrifying. It wasn't, but that was only the beginning. I'm Commander Lena Ortiz, navigator by training, skeptic by survival. The Wayfarer was a civilian deep-range explorer. Nothing heroic. No weapons, no flags, just curiosity and a borrowed jump drive prototype that was supposed to skim the edges of known space. Instead, it overshot reality. Alarms chimed softly, polite as apologies. The stars outside glowed unfamiliar hues. Violet giants, lattices of light where constellations should have been. My crew stared, waiting for orders. I took a sip of coffee and said the first honest thing that came to mind. Well, that's new. None of us were prepared for the truth. The first transmission arrived 3 seconds later, cutting through every frequency at once. It wasn't loud. It was precise. Unauthorized incursion detected. Identify or be contained. The words carried a weight that pressed behind my eyes. This wasn't a pirate or a rival nation. This was bureaucracy at a cosmic scale. Lieutenant Park whispered, "Commander, that signal has a carrier wave older than our sun." I exhaled slowly, opened a channel. What I saw next changed everything. The being that appeared wasn't monstrous. That was the unsettling part. It was symmetrical, luminous, composed of shifting geometric planes that suggested a body without committing to one. Its eyes, if they were eyes, held centuries like ledgers. "I am adjudicator Kepri of the Seventh Spiral," it said. "You have crossed into imperial sovereign space. An empire, a real one, not a myth, not a future." We had stumbled into the middle of a galactic government that had been running smoothly for longer than Earth had been multicellular. Park swallowed hard. "We should apologize." I nodded. "Probably." Kepri tilted its head. "You appear unconcerned." I shrugged. We didn't mean to trespass. But that answer only made things worse. Within minutes, we were surrounded by vessels that looked less like ships and more like moving equations, curved light, impossible angles, power humming like restrained thunder. The Empire didn't fire. It assessed. Kepri's voice returned, colder now. "Unintentional entry does not absolve violation. You will be escorted to Station Concordance for evaluation." Evaluation. That word echoed. Not interrogation. Not execution. Paperwork. As the Wayfarer was gently pulled into a corridor of light, I felt a flicker of fear. Not for my life, but for what came next. Because I knew humanity. And I knew how we reacted to authority we didn't recognize. And I knew the Empire wasn't ready for that. Station Concordance was a city wrapped around a star, layers upon layers of habitats, tribunals, archives, and living systems braided together in elegant obedience. Aliens of 1,000 forms moved with rehearsed purpose. Everything had its place. We did not. A delegation met us. Kepri at its center. "You will submit to cultural assessment," it said. "Compliance is mandatory." I smiled, small and tired. "Sure. Where do you want us?" That hesitation, the half-second pause, was the first crack in the Empire's certainty. because no one had ever answered like that before. The assessments began. Questions about governance, warfare, ethics, emotional regulation. They expected consistency. They found chaos. How many sovereign entities govern your species? Kepri asked. I thought of Earth. Depends on the week. Do you possess a unified military doctrine? Also depends. Why did you develop faster than light travel, without imperial sanction? I leaned back in the chair. We didn't know you existed. Silence rippled through the chamber. Confusion followed. But the real problem wasn't our ignorance. It was our attitude. We weren't awed. We weren't begging. We were mildly inconvenienced. And that unsettled them deeply. Days passed, or what passed for days under an artificial star. The Empire observed us the way one studies a strange insect, cautiously, academically, with growing concern. They showed us their laws, their history, their wars, ancient, calculated, efficient. Billions of lives optimized a way for stability. This is peace, Kepri said. I watched the simulations of planets of silence for non-compliance. That's not peace, I replied. That's quiet. Kepri studied me. Your species values disorder. I shook my head. We value choice. And somewhere in that exchange, something irreversible shifted. The turning point came when they finally showed us our file. Projected above the chamber was a single designation, pulsing an imperial script. Potential disruptor civilization. Status: observe or neutralize. Park's face went pale. Neutralize? Kepri didn't flinch. Your emotional variability presents unacceptable risk. Empires require predictability. I laughed. I couldn't help it. The sound echoed, sharp and human. You're afraid of us. That was the moment. That was when I realized the truth. We hadn't accidentally entered the Empire. We had exposed its greatest weakness. The Empire had conquered fear by eliminating surprise. Humans were nothing but surprise. We loved what we couldn't control. We thrived in uncertainty. Our history was a mess of catastrophes and recoveries, art born from trauma, hope stitched together from failures. They saw us as a virus. We saw them as brittle. Kepri lowered its voice. If released, your species will destabilize galactic order. I met its gaze, or make it better. But that was a gamble empires don't take. They voted to contain us. Not kill. Worse. Quarantine Earth. Seal us behind gravitational locks. Let us exist alone forever. The chamber buzzed with approval. Order preserved. Problem solved. I felt something twist in my chest. Not fear. Anger. You don't get to decide that, I said quietly. Kepri's eyes dimmed. Decision is final. I looked at my crew, at Park, at the human faces that refused to bow. Then you should know, I said. We already sent our jump data home. The silence that followed was absolute. You did what? Kepri demanded. I smiled, sad and proud. Our mistake? It wasn't a jump. It was assuming we were alone. Earth's been experimenting with the same tech for years. They'll figure it out. Panic, real panic, flicker across alien forms. You have invited yourselves, Kepri whispered, into an empire you do not understand. I nodded. That's kind of our thing. What they didn't understand was this. Humans don't need permission to explore. We just go. The Empire faced an impossible choice. Lock us away and guarantee a future confrontation, or let us go and risk cultural contagion. Debate raged. Systems stalled. For the first time in millennia, the Empire hesitated. In the end, Kepri returned us alone. You will be released, it said, under observation. Park grinned. I felt a strange ache. You're making a mistake. Kepri considered that. So are you. But mistakes are where humans live. The wayfarer departed concordance to no fanfare. Just a quiet corridor of light opening like a reluctant door. As the stars shifted back toward something familiar, I felt the weight of what we'd done settle in. We hadn't won. We hadn't lost. We had changed the equation. Years later, as Earthships began appearing at the edges of imperial space, traders, artists, diplomats, dreamers, the Empire would struggle to adapt. Some worlds would resist, others would listen, and somewhere in the archives of Station Concordance, a file would be updated. Status, humanity, uncontainable. Kepri would watch from afar, try to understand a species that stumbled into a galactic empire and didn't bother to kneel. As for me, I still drink my coffee on the observation deck, watching the stars. They haven't stopped rearranging themselves. And somehow, that feels like home.